Okay.
And Joan, thank you so much for helping my project. Could you say a little bit about yourself?
Okay. Let's see. What can I say? Was born in Rosenberg. I went to the University of Texas, and I had a 25-year in education. I was a teacher, educational diagnostician, administrator, assistant principal. And 20 years ago, I retired as soon as I could and started a bed and breakfast, which is now cabins on a ranch, which was land that I inherited from my dad. It was part of the family. Built 4 cabins on it, and it's in the Lost Pines, uh, which is a beautiful part of Texas. It's got rolling hills, pine trees, lots of birds and nature, and so that's been my retirement. And I'm in Rotary. I've been in Rotary 11 years, 12 years, and I'm a member of the E-Club, which is a more innovative, less structured part of Rotary. But we still do all the projects, um, and I'll tell you more about that. What I was thinking about, Nathan, is this project that you're doing, thinking in retrospect that a lot of times when we start something, we don't know where it's going. Like when I was in my 20s and I was living in Rosenberg, I started a garden club called the New Century Garden Club. And the reason we started it is the older garden club wouldn't let us join. It is still going on. They celebrated their 40th anniversary, and it's still, you know, a wonderful garden club. And along the same line, in 1905, a man named Paul Harris, and that was a difficult time in our country. And he felt like he wanted something where people from different professions had an opportunity to meet together and share. And so that's how Rotary started, is they rotated between different people's workspace. He was an attorney, and any profession could join in. Well, it took off and grew to the point that pretty soon it became international. And today it is the largest service organization in the world. It's got 1.2 million people. It's in 120 countries, and every country, you know, they have certain things that they do exactly the same, like their 4-way tests, asking the way you run your business, is it true? Is it fair to all concerned? Does it build better friendship? Is it beneficial to all concerned? So there's an ethical core to it. And then a few years later, after it got started and really started growing in 1917, one of the members said, let's start a foundation. He said, I have $26.50. We'll start a foundation. Today, that foundation is over $1 billion. And so the Rotary Foundation gets on the chair, let's see, it's called a charitable navigator. It has for 11 years in a row got the highest rating for a charity. And it's one of the biggest, I think it is the biggest service organizations in the world. So I guess I say all of that to say, Nathan, you don't know, starting this little project, where it's going to go 100 years from now. And that's a beautiful thing about having an idea and then acting on it and letting it go. I was just reading last night about, you've heard of Jung, J-U-N-G? He
I
was a
have, yeah.
So he never wrote anything until like the last years of his life. And somebody really encouraged him. He died, nobody had heard of him, but it's kind of through the years become, you know, a common name that people know about, and they know about his thoughts and that sort of thing. So we don't know what's going to be like after our death, you know, how it's going to expand. So I I celebrate what you're doing, and I'm really proud of you. Of course, I've always been proud of you, Nathan.
I really appreciate that. And talking about you don't know what's going um, to become of the project or how it will be looked upon later on, doesn't keep us from having our own imagination about how that might be. And one of the thoughts I had was, imagine a high school student on the moon having to do like this history project for one of her classes, where it's like, what were people thinking right before the new space age? And then they come across this project, and it's like source material for that high school report.
Yeah, that's right. Ken always tells me, don't say this anymore, but we only know what we know, and we don't know what we don't know. And so, using your imagination, um, it'll amaze people how little we know someday. I
Oh,
really,
exactly. I know. Uh, But I've been listening to the biography of Benjamin Franklin, and he had a club. I forget what he called it, but it was also like a group of his friends and professions and what have you, and they created like the volunteer fire department and a postal system, and other like a hospital, and other things like that. And it's just, I mean, we need organizations of people coming together and saying, we live in the world that we create, and we could choose to create it better.
right.
And Rotary sounds like an organization that's really taken that in a very practical way.
Yeah, it really has. And just, okay, so through the years, they've had these areas of focus, which have been disease prevention. And 40 years ago, they said, let's eradicate polio. Well, today, a lot of people don't even know what it is. And it's this close to eradicating it. It's still in a few cases, keeps showing up in, I think it's Afghanistan or Pakistan. But, taking something like that on. And then the model that they use for these has helped with the Ebola and some of the other diseases that have been a problem. Then water and sanitation. Um, we do these global grants where we're able to local clubs use some of that money, that $1 billion that's in the foundation, to build water wells. And we know that sanitation and water wells are, just essential to life. And our club participated in um, partnering in building a water well in Ethiopia this last year. And then we've just been asked by another club to partner in one in Nicaragua. So that's a focus. Another is maternal and child health, education and literacy. And this last global grant our club did, we partnered with a club in Nepal that wanted to go in and remodel some schools in Nepal, in Biratnagar, Nepal, which is right next to India. And, as a former educator, at first they were talking about technology, and then they went in and did a needs study, and I was blown away by what they didn't have. Like, they needed bathrooms for boys and girls, they needed a clean water source, they needed roofing repairs, walls, they needed a library, a playground. I was thinking, how can they even have a school without a library? You know, it just, but anyway, we were able to do it like nearly a $92,000 grant to help this happen. And then economic development. But what I was going to say is the newest area of focus for Rotary is the environment. And so what that brings up, your whole moon project and going to Mars or whatever is, well, we've done a pretty good job destroying our Earth. And, it's great that Rotary is going to start focusing on that, but, it's a mindset. I mean, that we're so economically driven, we don't look at the resources um, and taking care of the earth. So anyway, hopefully this we'll go to the moon or Mars and get some, I don't know, you know.
Well, I like you said, it is a mindset, and for the vast majority of people, even people who fly, their view of the world is what they see by standing on it. And when you're standing on the world, it seems huge, infinite, robust, indestructible. It seems like the entire universe. Um, and I think it was 1968, whenever December 25th, 1968, whenever Apollo 8 went around the moon, and they shot this photo of the Earth kind of coming into view as they went around the moon. Some people credit this picture as helping to fuel the environmental movement, from the sense that Earth doesn't look so big in that picture. It's really small, finite, fragile, just a little speck in the void. And it's also the one thing that's different about this view of the Earth, from what you normally see in globes, is you can't really see the political map piece, which is so prominent on globes. I mean, you have like America colored in one color and Canada colored in another, and you have to really look close to see the mountains and the rivers and the streams. But in reality, those areas don't actually exist in any real way. We have to continuously brainwash ourselves into making them exist.
Yeah, you're really right. And I don't know how many people have gotten this with the pandemic, how we're really all connected. And all these divisions just really don't make any difference. You're right. But yeah, I've heard that about that picture of the moon, or looking back at the Earth, that it is kind of mind-boggling. The other thing it does is, just like looking at the stars at night, or going out on a mountaintop and looking a great distance and seeing nothing, is we get so focused on here and now and our little world, we forget how small we are. So
I know, and science hasn't been too good for the ego of humanity, in the sense that, we started out thinking that the Earth was everything, and then we realized that there really are other things. But hey, it's okay. They're spinning around the Earth, so we're still the center of it all. We may not be it all, but we're still the center of it all. Then we find out, no, we're not even the center of our own little system. And then we find out we're just on the edge of this huge galaxy, and just a
right.
mere speck.
Yeah, I
Hmm.
know. It's maybe that's why some people don't like science. I don't know. But you're right. It's continues to surprise us how small we are.
Yeah, and it. I think one thing about true science is that all the answers are tentative.
Right.
It's like, this is the best we know so far. And that
Right.
doesn't quite galvanize people the same way as, this is the absolute truth, follow it, da 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 da.
Yeah, you're right. And I've heard that a lot with what's going on with the pandemic is, you know, like on Facebook, people post, well, first they said this and then they said that, wear a mask, don't wear a mask. Now they're saying wear a mask. They're saying, you know, anyway, but that's because the science is evolving, and, we're learning more and more about the virus, and, you know, whether you're right. You have to be flexible in science and realize you don't know that much. But
Right. And plus, I mean, such a complex system, unlike physical systems where you have masses and forces and you're able to 100% replicate the same setup. With
right,
biological systems, I mean, we're dealing with different genetics and different, healths, and the virus is also something that's will mutate and change over time too, and just so much to take in.
It is. Yeah. We want black and white answers.
Yes, yes.
Well, so
Oh,
tell
go
me
ahead.
about where we are with our space project.
Where we are with our space project. Well, one big problem I think we've had with uh, space is the way we've done it as a governmental activity,
Hmm.
where NASA would go out and hire some contractors to build a rocket to their specifications, and then 100% own that rocket and operate that rocket and what have you. And the way they did the contracting was using something called cost plus contracting, which is where they go to the contractor and say, hey, don't worry about giving us a fixed bid on anything. Whatever your costs are, we'll cover it and we'll add a little bit to your profit, which is really interesting how for-profit companies might respond in such a situation. They don't really have an incentive to decrease cost because that's not how they make their money. But lately, they've been using something called fixed bid contracting, and they've also been trying to create a marketplace of services instead of owning the rocket. So the first really success we saw with this was with the commercial payload services or commercial resupply services contract, where they said, the shuttle is retiring. We're still going to have to get supplies to the International Space Station. Instead of us building and operating a rocket, we're going to pick some companies, help them with their development cost. We'll, start out with picking 4, and then we'll down select it to 2. And then essentially what we'll do is we'll just pay them for how much they can deliver to the space station. And so out of that thing, you had SpaceX and Cygnus both went and start delivering things to the International Space Station much cheaper than you would have had on like the space shuttle or through other things. So these are rockets that are owned by Cygnus and by SpaceX. And just like you and I don't own the FedEx trucks that deliver the packages, we just pay for what we do. That's kind of what NASA did there. And they did the same thing with their astronauts. And so you had Boeing and SpaceX both develop a vehicle to carry astronauts to and from the space station. SpaceX was the first one to actually do that. And not only is NASA one of their customers, but they have 2 other customers, Axiom Aerospace and Space Adventures, to carry people into space. And you and I, for the low cost of $55 million, can
Yeah.
can also get a ride to space and spend a week up there.
Are
Tom Cruise?
there people that want to do that?
Yes, there
And
are people
so
that want to and can.
yeah, there's again back to the rich have so much more money than the poor. So other than shuttling people up to space, what is a financial motivation? Are they looking for some minerals that might be useful? Is it research? I mean, research. A private company, um, I can't see being as interested in research. I don't know. What is their financial motivation? Uh,
Well,
like SpaceX.
SpaceX is kind of like a special case, but in terms of like Boeing, their financial motivation is the same as it's always been. Maximize profit. So NASA is their primary customer, and NASA is going to pay them money for each astronaut to deliver. So try to
And
make,
NASA goes back to our government.
and that goes back to our government. But the
So our
difference
government
is
is subcontracting it out.
was a little bit different though. It is the same as the government subcontracting it out, but it's a little different in the set that they have 2 competing providers, and they're paying for actual delivery of services as opposed to paying to build the spacecraft and to operate it and everything. So you're starting to get kind of like a little effect of competition and then a fixed bid stuff to kind of reduce the cost. And there's some talk about having some private space stations where people could do research and do some manufacturing in free fall.
So I guess we always have to be careful about privatizing things um, for profit. What actually comes to mind right now is how we privatize prisons. So there's a motivation to keep them full because
Right?
they're for profit. So, I just wouldn't want that to happen in space um, production. So I'm glad
Yeah,
there's a competition.
I mean that's a problem. Um, well, I guess you got to be careful of privatizing something you want less of.
Exactly.
Right, right. So we want
Right,
fewer prisons, right? We
right.
we
That
don't
was
want to privatize the
privatize the
police
police.
because we really want less crime, not
Right,
to incentivize
right.
people.
Exactly.
But I'm not so sure. I think we want more space and more research and more people
Yeah, that's
going.
true.
So
That's
I feel
true.
like there is that difference a little bit.
Yeah. Okay, good. I'm glad you reminded me of that thought.
Yeah. But yeah, privatizing prisons. Yeah, it's funny. Yeah. It's amazing how many criminals you have whenever that happens. Huh?
Right. There's kind of a motivation to get people in there.
Yeah, and keep them in there.
Yeah.
And
It's
like,
bad. It's really hugely bad.
yeah, yeah. And then it's kind of, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm just kind of thinking through the whole private prison concept, and
Right.
it's such a complex subject. We could
Right.
probably talk for hours on just that
I
alone.
know. I know. Um, I mean, the whole space project seems like such a positive thing. We've really screwed up so many things that we've done. So I uh, I hope there's not a downside to this.
Well, there's definitely some downsides for sure. Whenever the rockets take off, they emit lots and lots and lots of pollutants. And, um, on one hand, you have Elon Musk and SpaceX talking about building these huge rockets that'll be 100% reusable, that will be able to go to orbit 3 times a day, manufacturing 2 of them a week. But you also have Elon Musk with Tesla and cars and solar panels, and so is it enough to offset each other? But
Yeah.
and then also another thing is you're burning the methane and you're releasing carbon dioxide and water, so you're putting more carbon in the air. But there's no reason why you couldn't also extract the carbon out of the air, reactive hydrogen, to produce your methane. So you could potentially make it net to zero in terms of, I mean, but then you have the other thing of you're taking the carbon out of the lower part of the atmosphere, but like the rock is actually emitting it all the way up. And so the question is, are you building up carbon in a layer? So I mean, I don't think uh, it's it's necessarily. I mean, there's definitely some downside things for sure. But Elon Musk and SpaceX, what have you heard about them?
Uh, Not a huge, you know, I know what he's trying to go to Mars. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah, I guess that's why we need a Rotary program to learn more because I really don't know that much about um, what he's doing. I mean, the trouble is with the news cycle, you just get a little bleep maybe once in a long while, and you know, so you don't know that much about it because other things are dominating the news cycle. So yeah, so
I hear we have an election coming up and some issues with the postal system, but that's a whole nother story.
is that not amazing?
Yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, we could really chew on that one.
I know. Especially, it's really kind of funny in this age of you could do everything on the computer, but you can't vote. I mean, um, you can see a doctor on the computer. You can I mean,
Well, there are 5 states, I believe, that you can vote by mail and have done it for a while. Like Oregon, Catherine always votes by mail. You get your ballot in the mail, fill it out, send it in.
well, but I mean, the other thing is, why can't we get to the point when you can vote by computer? You know,
Exactly. Now that makes sense. Why isn't anybody talking about that?
no lines. You could have like you could have what is it? Who's the judge, the voting clerk, or the whoever, they can like see the person online. They can double check to make sure not being coerced, that
Right,
they're in a proper environment.
right,
They submit their vote.
right.
Maybe even the judge gets a printout of it real time, doesn't look at it, but shows it on the camera and says, this is what you selected, this is what we
Yeah,
have. You say yes, they put it inside of I mean, you could do all sorts of.
right. I know. I don't know what the deal is. Okay, so when I first went to college to get the classes that I wanted, we had to stand in line. We would get a card, and then we took that card and we made our schedule that way. Okay. And then 20 years ago, I decided to go back to school and take some art classes at the University of Texas. No lines, no cards. You just got online and you registered. Um, Josh, my stepson, has developed an app that supposedly it's secure for businesses to transfer information. I mean, it's very possible. You're the first person that's brought it up that I've heard about voting online. I mean, why isn't anybody thinking about that?
Exactly, and you could have like a lot of checks in place, and you could have almost instant tabulation. It's like.
Yeah, of course, we've got people that are not connected and don't have internet. Um, so there's
that's
that.
that's true, but even that's not an insurmountable problem.
Right. It's not.
I mean, you can drop off the voting machine at their house,
Right.
pick it up later on. Um, you know,
Or we could, do a combination of ways to vote. Kind of like they could still vote by mail or drop their ballot in, and then everybody else that wanted to vote online could do that. Um, yeah, it's amazing that our country is really not ahead of the curve on so many things. And yet we have this ego like we're the best in everything. So
I know, I know, but yeah, um, kind of make America great again is kind of admitting that we're not the best at everything. I don't anyway, but I don't know.
oh,
Uh,
yeah.
anyway.
Do we want to record this? Do we want future generations need to know that we are not there.
It is a big problem. They may be wondering, can you imagine like school children in Russia today looking at history and they're going, what's the USSR? I don't get it.
Yeah, right.
At some point I might be in a great Republic of Texas and people are like, America? You mean like North America, right? Like the whole,
Yeah, yeah,
you know.
yeah. I know. But school children everywhere, they get the history that we teach them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So when we visited China, there were questions we had about some events that had happened, you know, there. And we had a young guide, and any question we had like that, she said, I'll get to that later. And she really didn't know. She didn't know the history, Red Square and all
Well,
of.
she didn't know the history you were taught. There's an idea for you.
Well, that's true. I'm with you on that. You're right. We all get different history.
Yeah. The history is written by the people in power that want to stay that way.
Right. I've especially learned that lately with all the talk about systemic racism and going back and reading different authors that have written about it. Um, One of them, and I'm trying to remember who, talked about the lies we tell ourselves. That um, that we really weren't so bad, that we're really the greatest country in the world, and forgetting that we ran the Indians off their land. We enslaved people before we even started our country. We fought a war over that. We had the Jim Crow laws. Even in my lifetime, your granddad's doctor's office had the black waiting room, the black bathroom, and the front waiting room and the front bathroom. It's like that's in my lifetime. Um, and then we look at today what's going on with, the likelihood of uh, a young black boy being picked up by police or even shot, and then that gets into, we think we have such justice, and it turns out that if you get picked up on a, whether it's minor crime or whether you did it or not, then put in jail. And if you don't have the money for the bail, and you're not going to go to court for 2 years, so you could get stuck there, and it's plea bargain, because 97% of all cases end up being plea bargain. Very few cases ever go to court. So justice is never really done. I mean, it's just, and so for a young black boy from a poor neighborhood, he's either got to tell a lie and say, yes, I did it, or end up staying in a horrible place for a long time. It's just, there's no justice. But we still, the lies we tell ourselves is we're the greatest country on earth.
But we're the greatest country that we're willing to accept. What I mean is, we're only as great as the lowest of our expectations that we're willing to tolerate. We can always become greater. Like, we don't raise our lives in societies, don't raise up to our hopes. They fall down to the least point that we're willing to tolerate.
Yeah.
And so,
That's right.
as a society, we've kind of are willing to tolerate that. But I have a more recent example for you. This
Okay.
happened the week of Floyd George's death. Okay. Christopher and I wanted to go see the historic first launch of astronauts on a commercial rocket. The first time that we launched American astronauts from American soil on American rockets since the retirement of the space shuttle in 2011. So we decided, even in this pandemic times, to hop in the car and drive all the way to Florida to go watch it. And along the way, I think we had to stop in Mississippi or Alabama for gas. And I'm stopped for gas. And then, police cars pulled over somebody on the other side. It was a black young man. And, you can overhear the conversation. The guy's like, hey, you made a legal left turn over there. And then, like, before you knew it, the guy was in handcuffs. His car was being searched. And so you're like thinking, was there something to make them think that the car needed to be searched? Is it just because he's a black guy in Alabama or Mississippi, I forget which, and they do this, and you're like, I mean, you don't know the situation, but I mean, do they do this to all the white grandmothers who make illegal left turns? I mean, if they do that, then maybe it's okay. I don't know, but and then you have like this sense. I was listening to a podcast by Sam Harris talking about how if you feel like you're being victimized by like the police, you're more likely to resist arrest, which means you're more likely to run into issues, which was kind of an interesting point too. But I don't know, just kind of made me feel a little unsettled. It's like,
Um, that's reminding me of a book I read. It's by Gadwell. What was his name? I'm trying to find it because
Is it like Outliers or
no,
Blink or?
Blink. No, it's not Blink. It's his most recent one that I listened to on Audible, and he recommends it on Audible. Let me look in my library. Um, because he actually has some um, talking to strangers.
Talking to
Talking to strangers.
strangers.
Yeah, I really recommend it because he starts out talking about Sandra Bland. You remember that situation?
Mm-mm.
She was a teacher in Texas, and she was coming down. She was a Black woman. She was going to, anyway, she was coming down. She was stopped for some minor thing. Anyway, same thing. She's in a police car, and she's recording it the whole time, asking him, "Why did you stop me? Why did you know?" And it may have been something like blinker or a headlight or something. Anyway, she ended up dead in prison
Mm.
shortly thereafter. Um, but he goes through really talking. I mean, it's a great book to listen to on Audible because of the um, the the audios he has of things. But really talking at how we look at strangers, and that's why he calls it talking to strangers, and prejudge. And he even talks about for a judge putting somebody on probation, letting them go or not, that if the judge looks at him and makes a decision, his decision isn't as good as that of a computer, because we're so prejudiced by looking at people. Um, anyway, it's a book I recommend.
Well, and I read a book recently called The Color of Law, and
Uh-huh.
it talks about kind of systemic racism when it comes to real estate, and about how the vets coming from World War II,
Yeah.
um, it was you had this GI Bill, and you had like the loans, the VA loans, and what have you, for the veterans to get new houses, used houses, whatever, with uh, no money down, and that type of thing. And it's like people of color didn't really apply that program because they knew that they um, wouldn't be able to get the loan because they couldn't live in the white neighborhoods, and the 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 redlining kept them from getting loans in the neighborhoods that they had, and that led to like overpopulation and under caring for the neighborhoods they were in, which created the slums that we have, which um, and then on top of that, that wasn't bad enough. We purposely make these freeways go through those neighborhoods just to displace those people. Um, so
Yeah.
it's,
I mean, it's terrible
yeah.
what we've done through the years. It really is.
But the thing is about the redlining and about the, not giving loans to people of color, that was a very kind of systematic, documented, examinable process, right? Now the big thing is to shift giving people loans based upon kind of evaluating them using computers, and instead of having discrete rules that determine whether or not a person should get a loan or not, the big move is around machine learning and artificial intelligence.
Mhm.
And what you do there is you feed in profiles of people who pay their loans and who don't default and who don't have late payments. And you train the computer, hey, this is what good looks like. And then you feed it in, a whole bunch of people that have defaulted or who make late payments and stuff. And you're like, this is what bad looks like, right? And so you're like, oh, that's perfect. That's what we really, really need, right? Because now we're going to be unbiased. It's going to be the best ever. And then you start feeding in these loan applicants. And what you start seeing is that there is, probably ratio correlation between them, just because those data sets are also already pre-correlated that way. And so now you don't have any, everybody could say they're completely non-racist and, you know, they're equal opportunity and all this, but the data has trained the programs to continue on with the past.
Yeah. Wow.
And nobody can be victimized. I mean, it's like kind of like a closed process. And this is not just with loans. This is also with um, you know, job applicants. The number of applicants that might apply to positions is so vast. You want to weed it down to something that's manageable. The first thing you're going to do is some type of automated process to kick out some
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. 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 The greatest amount of our wealth has been handed down through the years through real estate. So that naturally means that it's still a struggle upward for people of color because of the history. But yeah, that's interesting listening to that data. Nathan, before we leave, I want to hear about your family. How's Sonia and the boys?
They're doing well. You know, Stephen and Christopher are both doing online school, and Sonia's been working from home. I've been working from home for 2 years before this coronavirus thing. In fact, that's why I created this project, was as a cure to social distancing, make me get out and meet people in person. But yeah, they're doing well. My in-laws are doing well. So
And where are they now? Are they still with you?
yep, everybody's here, all six of us.
And so Stephen and Christopher are doing online there at home.
Yes,
So you
yeah,
got a house full.
got a house full.
So what year is Stephen in?
They're both in their senior year. One's in college, one's in high school.
And what is Stephen majoring in?
Bioinformatics, or you know, computational biology, I guess. Basically using computers to solve biological problems.
And I guess he's probably going to go get a master's and a PhD.
Probably, yeah, probably.
And is he still enrolled in the same school? I always forget the name of it.
Carnegie Mellon University up in Pittsburgh, yeah.
Uh-huh. So he won't go there at all because it's all online.
Yeah, indeed. So.
Yeah. Wow. So, well, with all of your family there, you don't, it's like you've got your own little community. It's
Yeah, we're in our own little spaceship on a who knows how long journey to someplace.
yeah, yeah. The people I really feel sorry for is the people that live alone. Got friends who, don't have their husband, and that's hard for them. But
Yeah, I suppose it is. Sometimes though, I do get a little jealous of them.
I guess you do. With a household like that, you probably have trouble finding any peace.
Definitely always a lot of activities.
Yeah.
But I have a question for you, Aunt Joan. If it was safe and affordable, would you go to space?
Probably not because of my age. Yeah. But I would, if it was affordable, I would even help fund, say, a grandchild or somebody going. It's just I feel like it's a waste on me. Uh, and as you get older, you've got you know, aches and pains and stuff, so but
The other way to look at it, though, is maybe with your experience, you're more able to appreciate that perspective.
yeah, I mean, it would be a wonderful experience. It really would. I
And
mean,
and also of your history of being able to communicate. You know, I mean,
yeah,
you might actually have the words for it.
yeah. Well, I mean, I would love it.
And
It's something nice to dream about, but it's kind of like um, I want to see pictures. I want to hear stories of other people that go. It's it it really tweaks my imagination to think about what it would be like. And I understand the astronauts left a bunch of stuff up on the moon that we need to kind of go get.
um, so, what do you think about us returning back to the moon in 2024? Do you think that's like a good thing, or do you think it's like, you know, kind of like the wrong set of priorities, or we should be focused on issues down here, or Um, are, what's your thoughts?
We definitely need to get back to the moon. I mean, I just personally cannot believe we haven't gone back to the moon. Um, when we had our exchange student Sebastian from Germany and went to the Space Center, we went with Don too. Don was too polite to say anything, but Sebastian said, you know, when you look at it, it looks so, I mean, compared to what we've got to today, it looks so archaic. So he said, it looks like something in old movies. He said, I don't believe that you really went to the moon. I mean, what? You don't believe we went to the moon? Well, why'd you stop? Why'd you just do it one time? I'm like, yeah, good question. We needed to be up there exploring and figuring stuff out. And yeah. So
So between 1969 and 1972, we had 6 landings on the moon, each with 2 men, 2 white men, 12 white men. So one of the goals for 2024 is to land the first woman on the moon. And I was wondering, does that make you more or the same excited?
I'm more excited. I wanted a female for president. I love it that we might have a female for vice president. You know, women look at things differently. You know, not that one's right and one's wrong, but it's like it opens up a whole nother area of how we look at things. I think it's wonderful. I remember when Krista McCullough was going up into space. Let's see, that was about 1980.
86.
I mean, I watched her with great hopes, and I've watched it, you know, fall apart. So yeah, I think that's wonderful. It's
Yeah, you
exciting.
were in education then. It was elementary school, right?
Yeah,
And y'all probably had it streaming on from TV, and it was like a big event.
it was a big event. At that time, though, I was an educational diagnostician, but at that time, as an educational diagnostician, I would go to different schools and test kids in areas of learning disabilities. And so when it happened, I was in my car, and you're going to be appalled by this, but I had a little TV on my dashboard plugged in to, and I watched it on my car. Yeah, and cried.
I know. I think people of my generation, that's their most vivid space memory.
Is it? Yeah, because probably, how old were you when it happened?
I was in elementary school. I think I was in 4th grade, so I would have been like 9. Well,
And
no,
you had,
no, 86. I was 11, 10, 11.
and you had it on the TV and you watched the whole thing.
You know, at school, I don't remember them showing it to us at all. And then I came home and found out about it. But what was really interesting was that December, this happened in January of 86, December of 85, we had gone to the Kennedy Space Center, and the Challenger was actually on the launch pad in preparation for its flight. So I actually
Uh-huh.
got to see it right before it happened.
I remember this is the camera focusing on her parents as they stood there and watched it happen. I mean, it was just
Wow.
phenomenal. Yeah, it was just really something horrible to see. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't try it again.
Yeah.
Do you think it was all of those kind of things that made the space them stop?
Yes and no. Um, I think the biggest problem with space is how expensive it is and how few options we have. And I think those types of things lead to the need to become more and more and more and more and more safe to such an extent. It's like, you know, in order to make something twice as safe, um, it may make it twice as expensive too. So, you know, it's like you go as far as you want, but at some point the cost becomes infinite.
Yeah, true. But if we can, we should.
That's awesome. But I really appreciate your time. Is there anything that you wanted to talk about that we didn't get to?
Well, I think Josh's kids and Josh would like to do an interview. They'll probably ask you a lot of questions about Mars. They're really interested in it. So should I just I guess, can you like email me the schedule so they can sign up?
Absolutely. I have a link I can send you. It has a calendar on it with like all the
Okay.
available days, and they just click on the date and time that works for
Yeah.
them.
When I told them I was doing this morning, they were like excited.
That is awesome. Yeah, I would love to have them. I would love to get everybody in the family kind of views and perspectives.
Okay, cool. Well, Nathan, it's so great to have this time with you, and I'm so proud of you. And just keep on.
I will do. Thank you so much.
Okay. Bye bye.
Bye bye.